We are Venom.
Venom is essentially, man, like this. Let's start off like Sony essentially made another 2002 Marvel film. Like if this movie would have been released around the same time as Ben Affleck's Daredevil or like Elektra or like The Punisher, it just fits that mold, man. Like it still has a lot of the not quite understanding the depth of these characters, and just a lot of it just like feels like it pertains to that era, the cheesiness of it,
It's the silliness is definitely part
the
of that.
silliness of it.
Eyes, lungs. I create so many snacks, so little time.
Nowadays, man, like however you might feel about the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy or what Marvel's done, is like, yeah, there's always going to be some suspension of disbelief. There's going to be some degree of silliness to them, sure, but it's been done so well that it's been kept to the minimum.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like now, people want some superheroes that still feel like they're grounded in some sort of reality. And mind you, it's not even so much the idea that a symbiote's falling down and he's, becoming a virus to a host or whatever, but it's more like the attitude behind it. Like the characters have a little bit more, they're a little bit more grounded. Like that cheesy shit don't fly anymore, man.
Well, you can still keep the premise of...
Obviously, it did fly.
Yes, you are.
It
It
still
worked
kind of
out.
flies, but it worked out. So maybe I'm the one to have to eat my words. But I don't know. Like I think for me, it's no different than the movie that I would have probably thought was great when I was in 2001 or something.
Sure, or at least entertaining. And I do think the movie was entertaining.
I don't hate the movie either.
I don't hate
I thought
it.
it was fine.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, Tom Hardy's always going to elevate any movie he's in, as far as I'm concerned.
It's mostly a bad movie, sure, but I was entertained by it. I think the movie, the most intriguing thing for me is kind of like how Sony really approached this. I think we talked about this before. Like, I think that the way they budgeted this movie was very smart. $100 million, which it's crazy to think that that's like a modest budget nowadays, but it has become that. Releasing it in a slot in October where there was no competition from Marvel or
Also
DC or Fox, very smart. And the casting was perfect. That's the right actor for that role. And that alone, I think, at the very least, piqued people's curiosity. And so their strategy behind their property and the thing about it is like this, like even without the Marvel films having their name attached to the movie in terms of being the MCU, the Marvel properties, comic book properties, still have a lot of value. And this is what Sony also understood. It's like, maybe we can still get something out of this. We can still build some sort of like franchise, even after they pretty much put Spider-Man on lease to the MCU. And to be honest, I think this was a really big win for that studio.
Yeah, surprisingly, I think so. I one of the things I texted you was, I wonder how pissed Marvel is, because I'm sure they were just waiting to try to get back all their characters from Sony. And all of a sudden, these people have a successful Venom movie, so now I wonder if Marvel's like, God damn it, now we have to use their Venom, because that's a successful one, and we got to figure out how to fit the story the way they wrote it into what we were planning to do. Like, I wonder how pissed they are about that. And that was probably definitely a negotiating tactic for Sony to get a bigger percentage, because it's like, oh, look, we made a successful Venom film. If you want to use him, you gotta pay us an extra percentage.
No, I think Sony has approached this brilliantly, and remember, they did lend their Spider-Man rights to the MCU, so they are trying. And Venom was PG-13. They took out a lot of the gore. They took a lot of the scenes that were a little bit more oriented towards adult audiences, and I think that part of the reason is that, yeah, we kind of think that we would like to play nice with Disney, because maybe we could get these characters together and we could take a bigger cut than what we did and just lend it to you. Now we actually have a say how this character gets interpreted, how it gets incorporated, and we're gonna be a little bit more like a partnership rather than just than than like Tenant.
Yeah.
I thought that was very well played by Sony.
Yeah. Now moving on to the writing, this is exactly what I texted John, or we were on the phone or something.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that no writer in Hollywood has friends.
Mm-hmm.
They either have sycophants that are yes men and say everything that they do is great, or they don't have anybody at all, and that's why they're all alcoholics. Because I swear to God, any good friend would read the script and be like, hey, dude, I mean, the script is not bad, but why do people do this? Hey, the script is not bad, but that makes no fucking sense. Hey, the script is not bad, but everything you wrote up to this point kind of just disappears once this happens. Why is that? Like, they have no friends that will read their script and point these obvious things out that they could fix before shooting. I just thought, like, for instance, and I'm just going to jump straight to the end. So, the cops, he beat the shit out of like 5 people in his apartment. And then he beat the crap out of a couple people outside his apartment and on the road to wherever he was going. The cops know that it's Eddie Brock that they're after. He exposed himself as having the Venom symbiote in him several times. And somehow when the movie ends, the police forgot that Eddie Brock did this. The police forgot that he beat the shit out of 5 people in his apartment. The police forgot that he caused 20,000 car accidents. The police just, because he just waltzes into that Quickie Mart like, oh yeah, hey, I'm just gonna get a milk because it's another day. Are you fucking kidding me?
Not to mention that he ends up, Venom ends up eating the head out of one of the assailants at the end of the movie. So
Eddie Brock has also left a headless corpse in a Quickie Mart. And that lady didn't freak out either.
Yeah, she's like, oh okay, cool. Like,
I mean, I guess people lose their heads all the time.
Oh man. What else do we have to say about Venom?
I thought the action was kind of fun. I
agree with that.
I thought the performance from Tom Hardy was strong. I thought the performance from his girlfriend, it's like we
Michelle
talked.
Williams?
Yeah, Michelle Williams was, in the script, she was probably written as generic blonde number 15. Because there's nothing about her character or her performance that really stands out. And I know you said that she's like either nominated or won an Academy Award.
No, she's a good actress. Like it was kind of disappointing to actually get somebody of that caliber to just play a character that anybody could have played.
Yeah. And then the bad guy, I forgot his name. The bad guy he's one of the very 90s, kind of early 2000s aspects of this. He's a very cliche.
Yes, definitely.
Like for the Elon Musk of this movie, he boils down to such basic, dumb ways of behaving.
That's what I was trying to get. That kind of felt to me kind of like a little bit like the villains from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Got a little bit that sort of like Green Goblin or...
Very hammy.
What's it? Yeah, or even like Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, who both great actors, and they were great in those movies. But the kind of like the performance itself, it's kind of like a little bit cartoonish.
Yeah, it's kind of like the hammy, over the top-ish villain. Not super like I'll destroy the world, but kind of just that whole 2-dimensional, very flat motivation.
Yeah, exactly. So, once again, that's another aspect about this movie that feels like 2002. Not to mention that, I mean, mostly probably due to budgetary constraints, the effects are pretty limited, which actually cost, I'll be honest, the first hour of this movie is a little bit, after a while, it gets a little bit, it takes a while to get to where it needs to go. Yeah. Like, I went to this movie, I'm like, okay, let's get it going. Come on, where's Venom? Where is this guy not showing up? Like, really, Venom doesn't really make his appearance until, like, the last 20 minutes of the movie, more or less?
No,
maybe 30?
Probably like half the movie.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But still, that's kind of like you're waiting almost an hour before the title character shows up.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
but
it's not like it was
they have
building
to
this.
set up. Well, they have to set up all the
Yeah, but
complex
it's not like it was building.
science.
Yeah, exactly. It was. I'm sorry. They were building so much like suspense and anticipation. You know what I mean? That was so intrigued. I was like, yeah, I can wait an hour for Venom to show up.
I honestly, I was so on the edge of my seat that I was like, you know what? Venom doesn't even need to show up at this point. I just want to learn the science behind symbiotes. This
Sony would have been more than happy with that. They would have saved themselves at least $20 million, man. They would be like, really?
A quarter of their budget would have been saved.
We'll just have Tom Hardy do voiceover, just like the rest of the movie.
Yep.
We can do whatever we want. Whatever. I don't know.
Are you gonna eat more heads? Maybe. Seriously.
Oh man. Yeah,
the humor was kind of that. The interactions with Venom were not bad. There was something that you pointed out, which was like that part where Venom admits that he on his planet, because that's the thing. They never. Hold on. They never even explained where the symbiotes came from. We know they came from space somewhere, and then so wherever they're from, this asteroid or planet or whatever, he was also a loser. I kind of would have preferred he was like a criminal. I mean, he kind of sees that this could be his playground. Not just like, oh, Eddie Brock, you're a loser like me. Let's be buddies.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that the relationship between a virus and a host is so amicable.
Well, that's the whole gag, though. He's not a virus; he's a symbiote. Oh, that's the other thing. The first time that they extract Venom from Eddie Brock, it's because he has some kind of heart condition. But they never explain if Venom caused the heart condition or if Eddie Brock had the heart condition. The only thing that we know is that Venom says he could fix it. And then that is like brought up and dropped within a matter of 4 minutes and then never discussed again.
Yeah.
Again, if you have friends, if I ever hand you a script, John, as a friend, that has stupid shit that doesn't make sense, please, oh please, call me and tell me this was a really bad idea or this is stupid.
I think that he needed to look. I like the fact that I kind of like the buddy movie aspect of it.
Yeah,
you know, I think it's like overall, Venom just comes across as a very likable anti-hero. You know what I mean? How can you not like Venom?
Yeah.
But I think that would have been interesting to give a little bit more of a reason why these two guys are connected, just the fact that they kind of like are similar. You know what I mean? That there is a codependency there where it's like Eddie's like, yeah, if I don't have Venom, then I could potentially die.
Well, that's one of the problems too that I have is the way that they define the symbiote's behavior is kind of all over the place, because at first they're experimenting with the symbiote and a rabbit, and it kind of devours the rabbit.
Yes.
And all of a sudden they just assume, because science, that they need a compatible host. What that is, never explained. But then Venom gets in Eddie Brock, coincidentally finds the right host there. But the other, I forgot what the other villain symbiote was called. But the other symbiote starts taking over people. But not like how Venom does it, where he gets in your body and then you have to kind of cooperate. No, he just turns people into zombies. And he jumps from person to person, and it never shows that it affects a person badly. It never shows that those people have any kind of inner monologue that the symbiote is struggling with. He just completely consumes it up until he infects, our Elon Musk bad guy. And then all of a sudden, they're compatible.
They try to justify it as like, you remember when he tells Venom you have a strong host?
So all these people are just weak?
Exactly. Oh. It takes the right host for the symbiote to actually have dialogues with you. If not, you become a zombie.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, those are things that, like, I feel that the earlier comic book movies from like could get away with, or maybe it was a little bit more. Nowadays, it kind of feels like, and it's not to say that like the MCU has these super complex storylines or they don't get away with some stupid shit too. They do.
Well, I
But
mean, there's always look with superhero films. There's always going to be a suspension of disbelief. Like obviously,
Of course.
we accept a guy that dresses like a bat to fight villains. We're already dismissing something, but I think as far as like, you know, the writing, the quality of the writing, whether these movies are good or bad, the quality of the writing has elevated in general since, you know, the early 2000s. There's more character development for these characters. These writers actually try to find the angles that work for these characters in their stories.
It also feels to me that one of the cool things that Christopher Nolan did and in some ways set the course to what we expect from a comic book movie is that you're actually getting filmmakers, writers, producers that actually understand these characters.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, maybe before you would just get like, you know, a random director that probably didn't have much interest or knowledge in the character, and he would just do a generic movie.
Well,
I
think like that comes from the fact that like in the 90s, the 90s is when comic books like really blew up again. And those kids, the people that were kids during that time are now the adults that are probably, you know, directing these movies and writing these movies.
Yes, yeah, that 20-year gap when they were probably like your teens or 20s, whatever. Now it's the ones in their 40s making the films. Yes,
right. So these are the people that were reading comic books at their height can now translate those properties into feature films that are fitting of our, you know, of our time.
Exactly, you know what I mean? But I think for me, Venom kind of feels at times like it kind of feels like those who wrote it, did they really have a complete grasp of the character? Or
well, the thing
honestly, maybe they are compromised in a way because as of right now, they haven't included Spider-Man, and it does take away from the origin story of Venom.
His whole origin is rewritten at this point. Because I mean,
exactly.
The best time to introduce Venom would have been the Infinity War, the Avengers Infinity War, because that's where Venom actually was created. Or not Venom, but that's where the symbiote was introduced, which later became Venom. And they couldn't do it because they didn't have the property. So they had to rewrite his whole... And obviously, and most of Venom's early... Because Venom was not an anti-hero at first. Once the symbiote separated from Peter Parker because he saw that it was doing so much damage to him, then it became Venom, and then that's when it got its own personality. But you know, before that, it was just a symbiotic suit. But all that has changed now. And then also, what drove Eddie Brock and Venom, what I think, if I remember correctly from the comic books, what drove Eddie Brock and Venom together was the fact that they both hated Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
Exactly, yeah. They were joined by animosity.
Yeah. And that, obviously, that's not a part of this at all.
Yeah.
You know, and if they introduce him to the MCU, I'm very curious to see how they're going to do it, because you've just cut out a good, 15 years of comic books for that character.
Yeah, it's going to have to be some... there's have to be some writing gymnastics in order to kind of like incorporate that character. But then again, they did some modifications for Spider-Man to join the MCU, so maybe that's something that they could work out.
Maybe.
It's not impossible. It's probably, we'll see what they come up with.
Well, the thing is, also, I don't think they're going to be able to just use him as Venom, the villain for Spider-Man. I mean, maybe they could. It'll take some interesting maneuvering, because now he is an he started off as an anti-hero. Venom didn't become Venom just to be the villain, like in the comic books.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's it, man. I think the movie was, like I said, would I say it's a good movie? No. But, it was entertaining enough to, have kept my interest. And I got some good laughs out of it. So, I'm not going to...
I like the scene where he tells him to jump from the building.
Yeah.
That was great. I actually chuckled at that one because that was pretty good. Yeah,
look, if anything, like, they still have the actor, they still have the character that I think that go hand in hand very well. And if they can kind of keep the whole buddy comedy vibe to it, I think that you'll have a successful couple more movies.
Yeah, especially if, well, like, yeah, it could be a whole series if they go into the whole Venom verse thing, symbiote universe thing. I don't know what it's called because I haven't been reading those comics. But I heard those comics were pretty good. The ones that are covering Venom as some kind of hero against symbiotes or something.
Yeah,
I heard they were pretty good, but I haven't read them. I don't know anything about them.
yeah, I'll probably take some ideas from that. Maybe, you know, I know Carnage is set up for the next movie, so that already is pretty intriguing in its own right.
It could be cool. Anyways, so what's your? I figured we should use the namesake of the show to end it. What's your final take on the topics we've discussed?
My final take, and in the case of Venom, you know, yeah, it took a little bit of, you know, some clever marketing and distribution from Sony, but hey, man, they were able to get a property that a lot of people doubted they could do money with, and you know, they actually won. So, you know, people, we like all these movies. I mean, we're talking about them, so, and we saw them. So, like, who are we to say like don't make them anymore? You know, they're, you know, we're obviously just as fans as, or at least intrigued by them. So, you know, Hollywood's gonna keep making them. That's it.
Well, my final take is sequels sell. So if you give them money, you're going to see as many sequels as they can throw at you. And 2 is the most important one. And this goes out to all the writers in Hollywood. Make friends. Make friends that will actually judge your shit and give you good advice. Please. Please. Anyways, with that, those are my 2 cents there.
Like a bird in the wind.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Peace.